Claire, great to have you here. Have Labour got themselves into a bit of a muddle?
On quite a lot of issues, it would seem. The trans issue is always going to be the one that trips them up because they want to be friends with everybody, they don't want to offend everybody, they want to seem fair. And
be nice. They want to be nice.
And yeah,
they want people on Twitter to like them.
In politics, you have to make some decisions that people don't like. And you're going to have to stand up and be counted for it.
And to govern is to choose. Yeah. And when you have to choose when. You can say, I mean, guess we had Richard Powerside, apologies, a little bit earlier, talking about, you know, people who are anti-trans rights. You think, well, I'm sorry, but it's not, people aren't anti-trans, people are pro-women and women's safety. He's got himself into a mess. Trans women don't have the right to use women-only toilets, he says. Now, only earlier this week, Bridget Phillipson, his Shadow Education Secretary, said they do. He's repeatedly said that trans women are women and a small percentage of women have penises. Not all of us, apparently. I keep looking for mine, never appeared. But, you know, I mean, it is laughable. It is a joke. Yeah. It's amazing. On Twitter and even our guest Richard, you know, this sort of, oh, God, no one cares about this stuff. Yeah, you know when they do care? Is when their 12-year-old daughter is coming out of a cubicle and there's a bloke standing there and she's frightened. I have a very good friend who was sexually assaulted as a young teen in a toilet by a man who obviously was not supposed to be there. Yeah, and so predators will get in. Let's not give them a full, you know, a hall pass to go into women's toilets. I mean, this is happening. It's happening right now. Predatory men, the huge number of men behind bars for sexual and violent crimes against women who are now claiming to be trans to get themselves an easier life in their prison or get themselves into a women's prison. This is happening on a grand scale. When people pretend this is just some silly little concern that people have, people like me, we're apparently obsessed with women's toilets and people's genitals. No, we're not a minority. J.K. Rowling tells you we're not a minority. People care about this. It may not be the only thing they vote on. Yeah. For me, I'm very serious. Here's my two deal breakers. Do you know what a woman is? And that no women have penises and no one can change their sex. If you cannot confirm to me categorically and at all times, every time in your past that you can guarantee that you've never lied, never pretended about that, you ain't getting my vote. If you tried to stop Brexit, because after there was a democratic vote for Brexit, that's a deal breaker for me too. I'm sorry, I think those are things, those aren't party political, they are just, do you believe in democracy and do you understand basic human biology? And basic stuff.
And that's it. And when you're looking at the trans community, it is a small community, the majority of which just want to get on with their lives. They're not interested in having this debate anyway.
They're horrified by all this.
They are. They just want to get on with their lives and they want the respect that they deserve to have. Fine. Perfect. Then why are some parts of politics ignoring 51% of the population?
Yeah, by the way.
Of women. Why are they ignoring the concerns that we have? And if you raise those concerns, they just tell you you're transphobic. Yeah. No, I'm not. I just want to be safe.
Not willing to play. And again, people like J.K. Rowling are saying she can't vote Labour because of this issue.
And that's a real shock.
I think it's amazing how much more this subject has come up because people are waking up to actually there is an impact to this. And I keep talking to people who are absolutely convinced this isn't an issue. Nothing's happening in these, in women's prisons. And I mean, genuinely, this is happening. It really is. But what do you make about Keir Starmer saying in an interview with Chris Evans just down the corridor here on Virgin that he won't work past 6 p.m. on Friday so he can spend time with his family? And bearing in mind the context of this is that his wife is Jewish and it's a really big part of the Jewish sort of family culture. Friday night dinner, it's kind of sacred. And he says he carves out time for his family, his wife, and but apparently he has always stuck to this. Does that fly when you're Prime Minister?
I don't think he needed to say it. Would anybody notice if he went and had dinner with his family at 6 o'clock on a Friday, maybe took an hour off looking at his mobile phone? He's still got staff there, he's still got advisors, private secretaries.
Angela Rayner can step in?
Absolutely, she can have that hour, can't she, on a Friday night? I'm sure she'll enjoy that. But I just don't think it needed to have been mentioned. Yes, I get he has a family. That's lovely. That's wonderful. So do we all. And I don't feel the need to broadcast what I do for my family to the world.
Here's the thing, and this is where I think it is different for men and women. I don't want to make the whole show about this, guys. I really don't. I really try not to do these things. But I do think that for many, many years, women who, you're juggling a top career and you're juggling, your child care responsibilities, that actually women would kind of lie about, I'm not going home to look after the children. They would cover that up as much as possible, whereas men can there's a certain breed of young man now, and I love that they do this, and they're great dads. They're putting food on the table and they know their kids' names and and where they go to school. That's a good start. Yeah. A lot of dads didn't do that for years, but it's kind of a badge of honour. Oh, I'm off because I'm looking after my child. I'm off, and you just sort of think, yeah, but you get a little round of applause for it. Yes. Women get told, oh, you're unreliable because you've got kids.
But the other thing they say, oh, I can't come out tonight. I'm babysitting. No, you're not.
Your own kid,
you're looking after your child. You're parenting.
Kid. That said, I for many years I had great childcare. Thank you, the wonderful Val. For years and years, it's like a member of the family. And but genuinely, I used to pretend that I didn't have great childcare to get out of social arrangements when I was a tired mum, working mum. And you just go, oh, I'm really sorry, I just haven't got a babysitter. It's like just literally sitting there,
sitting there in your joggers.
Look, we talked about that. Lots of messages, but I just want to ask you about this woke City law firm, Hogan Lovells. They vowed to tackle microaggressions with an anonymous reporting hotline, and this includes things like, obviously there's blatant open discrimination. So every time that someone who's black or Asian or a woman or gay speaks, someone else just dismisses them, or if they're white or they're man, just dismiss them, or ignoring people, talking over them. I'm guilty of that. Things like, but it also includes sort of not looking at somebody and not correctly pronouncing their name or spelling their name and rolling your eye. I mean, what do you just?
I know.
Your
See,
eyes.
I can't help it. I would just be awful in this. Nicknames. Apparently, you can't give people nicknames. That is counted as a microaggression.
I'm not a fan of people giving people nicknames, though. I think you should kind of check with the person. I don't shorten people's names unless they...
No. I mean, we have nicknames in the office. We are quite bad, and I think would probably be reported to every hotline going. We have nicknames. There is eye rolling. If you get called Sugar Puff, then, you just live with it. But it is one of those things that it's fine in our office, and we don't see that as microaggression. But anything else, though, there are protected characteristics, and that law is already there. Why do you need a separate little reporting line? That's the thing,
but it's a hotline, isn't it? It's the idea that that people can... That's it. In most HR now, HR's in public and private sector, they're encouraging people. You have to speak up. In fact, you're at fault if you don't speak up, if you see something happen to someone else. But things, you would always speak up if you saw something you thought was definitely, well, hold on a minute, this is wrong. I don't like this. This is bullying. This is something like that. But I'm sorry, every office I've worked at, there's someone whose nickname is HR something, because that they constantly bleat to HR about but literally being asked to sort of just do their job. And then there are people who just get on and do everything. But also, I mean, we both worked in political and journalism world. Frankly, there's a lot of bad language. Terrible. And it's part of the fun. It's part of
It is. And it's
the banter,
not aggressive. It is banter,
but sometimes it is.
It depends how you're saying it. But I think we should start calling you National Treasure after Charles.
After Charles, yeah. I mean, God, if my husband was ever that nice to me, I'd be a very happy woman. Hi, babe. Anyway, look, I also, let's briefly, we're going to briefly get to, we should have got to this much sooner, in this hour, US Supreme Court, this ruling that... by 6-3 with conservative judges. Of course, 3 of those conservative judges appointed by Donald Trump himself. But they have ruled that Donald Trump cannot be prosecuted for actions that he has done while he's in office in his official capacity. So, if he went off and stole a pizza while he was president, that wouldn't count as part of official duties. He could be prosecuted. But Donald Trump is facing action, not just, he's facing his sentencing, I think next week or in a week or two's time, for that trial in New York over the hush money for Stormy Daniels and the covering up of that, for which he was convicted. But he's got 3 more prosecutions coming. Those are largely in relation to the general election, the presidential election in 2020, and events on January the 6th as well. Now, basically, the US Supreme Court has said, look, we're going to send these claims back to a lower court to decide, but fundamentally, an American president, whether they're Donald Trump or anyone else, has immunity for any of their acts they commit while in official duties. Now, Joe Biden says he thinks this is a very dangerous precedent to have been set. But it's got to be the case that presidents can't be charged with crime here, crime there for their official duties. Otherwise, they wouldn't ever do anything. But where do you draw the line?
Well, I mean, therein lies the problem, and that needs to be discussed, because what do you, as you said, is it stealing a pizza? Is it storming the US
beaches
Capitol?
in Cuba? I mean,
I think America needs to sort this out. They really need to understand what they want their president to be able to do or not to do. And passing it around from court to court to court doesn't do anybody any favours. To delaying tactics.
And the biggest problem with the courts in America deciding pretty much everything ends up at the Supreme Court eventually is that the Supreme Court is supposed to be these sort of neutral arbiters and they're there for life. But actually they're not neutral arbiters because they're political appointees and they're appointed on very highly political basis. By the way, so are the Democrats, appointees as well.
Yeah.
Coming up, we're going to be talking more about this trans stuff, which is certainly get the phone lines alight. But just your final thoughts on this Reform candidate, Georgie David, Reform candidate for West Ham and Beckton, who said she's been frustrated and dismayed by Nigel Farage's failure to tackle her concerns about Reform's candidates. She says she's defecting to the Conservatives. This just 2 days before polling day, because she says the vast majority of her fellow candidates are racist, misogynistic and bigoted. I've read out a list of the other candidates standing in the last half hour. It'll be available on our website as well. But what do you make of a candidate saying this? Has she suddenly found something out that the rest of us don't know?
I think the timing is everything, isn't it? Because if you had those thoughts, surely you would have had those a few weeks ago. Why leave it until the Tuesday before an election?
Does that suggest...
I just feel there may be some underhand play.
But we've had a number of candidates doing this in the last few days. There's been suspicion in Reform ranks that there is actually this some dirty tricks going on.
And there is that potential, and I think it needs to be looked at. But you have to wonder, who are the candidates? Where are they coming from? They need to be vetted better, and that's something that Reform has to get a hold of if it is going to stand candidates in any future elections.
And are there any bigger issues for Reform than for any other party, by the way? We've had a number of candidates having to stand, a number of candidates, by the way, other MPs for a lot of the major parties who've gone to prison for wrongdoing, not suspicions like this.